Welcome to the Shiver channel, The Unseen Tenant. In a sleepy little town that was usually enveloped in mist and secrecy, a dilapidated mansion sat at the end of a cobblestone street. No one lived there, or so people thought. The truth is, the mansion was never empty. It had an unseen tenant, a presence that everyone felt but no one could see. David, a curious teenager and an amateur historian, had always been fascinated by the mansion's history. One evening, feeling bolder than usual, he decided to investigate the mansion himself. He wanted to know what made the floors creak when nobody was there, or why lights flickered even when the electricity had been cut off years ago. So David picked the lock and stepped inside. The mansion greeted him with a chilling gust of wind, as if sighing at a long-awaited visit. Armed with just a flashlight, David began to explore. The interior was as unsettling as its reputation. Cobwebbed chandeliers, walls adorned with grotesque paintings and rotting furniture that told tales of a glorious past. David reached the study, a room filled with ancient tomes and manuscripts. Among them, he found a diary dated back to 1885. It belonged to a man named Ethan, a scientist and an occultist. Ethan wrote about experimenting with crossing dimensions, about tearing the fabric of reality to reach the other side. His last entry was unsettling. It read, "I have done it, but at a terrible price. I am now an observer, trapped in my own home." Just as David closed the diary, he heard footsteps above him. They were soft, almost hesitant, as if afraid to break the intense silence. But how could that be? There was no one there, or so he thought. Curiosity overcoming fear, David climbed the creaky stairs. The steps grew louder, more distinct, as if encouraging him to proceed. When he reached the second floor, the footsteps ceased. He opened doors to empty rooms, one after another, until he reached the last one. Unlike the others, this room was pristine. The bed was made, the curtains were fresh, and a faint scent of lavender filled the air. It was as if someone or something was still living there. Suddenly, David felt a cold hand on his shoulder. He swung around, flashlight trembling in his hand, but there was nothing. The room was empty. His eyes caught the glimpse of a figure in the mirror, a man standing right where he was, but it wasn't his reflection. It was Ethan, mouthing words David couldn't hear. Panicked, David dashed out of the room, out of the mansion, and never looked back. But the story doesn't end there. From that day on, David became reclusive, almost paranoid. He claimed that he often felt like he was being watched, that sometimes he could still hear those hesitant footsteps following him. People said he had gone mad, but David knew better. He had left the mansion, but something from the other side had followed him back. And like Ethan, he was now an observer in his own life, forever haunted by the mansion's unseen tenant. He realized that the mansion was never empty. It housed lost souls caught between dimensions. And perhaps it had room for one more. Subscribe for more.